Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to this third part of the tutorial. Today we're gonna finish this, and as usual, the patch will be free to download in the description. So the first thing we're gonna look at today is our end mixer, because that's one thing we're gonna change today. As you can see, there are too many differences between the two mixers. This one has only mono inputs, and this one has stereo inputs. But if you only have a mono output, you can just put it in the left input and it will be just as fine. But of course it has the option to put stereo inputs. Further, this mixer has the option to see the volume meters of our different channels, and therefore we can make sure the sound, if we record something, is always right, because it will show if we play in the yellow or in the red. So that's one thing. The next thing that's nice about this mixer, it has mute and solo options for every channel. It has the option to write here which instrument you are inputting in a certain channel. So we can set, for example, kick, oscillator 1, oscillator 2, hi-hat, for example. So it will help us to see if we want to take a certain sound out for a little bit. It will help us to see which fader we should take down. So that's one nice thing about this mixer. So first thing, let's change our mixer to this one. First our left output, right output. Then we're gonna put our kick. Most of the time I put my kick and the basses first and my hi-hat last, and all the rest somewhere in between. But you can do whatever you want, of course. Most of the time I put kicks, bass, hi-hats and all the rest in between. So this is a kind of bass, but I'm gonna put it here because I want to put our hi-hats here. Our first oscillator voice, our second oscillator voice, our third oscillator voice. Do we have everything? Yes. All right. Yes, we have everything. Is it already connected? All right, let's see how it looks. And as you can see, we're totally playing in the red now, because this kick is way too much. We can never play in the red. We can mostly sometimes touch the yellow. That's the max we can do. And that's important for our recording, because in our end mixer we should for the maximum just briefly touch the yellow and always try to stay in the green. There's never something like this. Even this will be already too much, as you can see. So always, we're gonna always try to keep, especially our end mixer, and certainly we can look also at this volume. We may just briefly touch the yellow, that's all. We can never go here in the red, and also here we can just briefly touch the yellow, we'll never go into the red, or just, no, it's a bit too much already. Of course we can always take our end volume a little bit down. We should try to keep out of the red, that's important, or very briefly, that's allowable. Alright, but now we lost our effect. Therefore, this mixer has an extra option. There are a few mixers that have the same option, but I prefer this one. You can choose the one you like, of course. And that's this option. This is an effect panel of this mixer, which means you can send every channel through 4 different kind of effects, which we can choose here. So here we have our 8 channels and our 4 effects, which we can choose. As you can hear, we lost our effect now. So let's get our effect back. Also, what is important, I'll show you first. First, let's try to get our effect back. We go from our first effect output to our effect input, and then from our effect output to our return. So we got send and return through our effect. Now we have the option to put every one of this channel through this effect by selecting this knob and putting it higher. But of course this is too much for this sound. But now we have the option, we can select every sound and how much this effect will apply to a certain sound. So that's a very great option of this mixer. Alright, what's our next sound? We can always listen what its solo sounds. Now without effect. Now we can see how much we want a certain sound, how much effect we want to have on a certain sound. Of course the sine, you can hear on the sound that it's making a sine. Because if we want to make the sine as loud as, let's say, a square of a sawtooth, we have to put our attack more down, but we don't want that. I especially choose not to do so. So we get sometimes a little bit more quieter sound in our whole patch. Alright, let's go on. Listen to the next sound and see how much effect we want on that. maybe pretty much. All right, next sound. It's our palette. All right, and maybe let's help us here by the first one is our kick. So let's set kick. The second is oscillator 1. So let's oscillator 1. Oscillator 2. Oscillator 3. Or I can call it palette maybe. And as you can see now on our effects, they have the same name. Now we can see where we want to add or reduce certain effect. All right. Where are our hi-hats? All right, at the end. Do we want ear effect? Oi, wrong knob. No, this will be not. That's not gonna affect the sound nice. So we don't maybe a little bit. And on our hi-hats, of course, we're gonna want to make this effect. And what I also want to show you, it is important that these two modules are connected together, otherwise it won't work. I will show you by separating them, so we will gonna lose our effect. As you can see, they have to be exactly next to each other to work. All right. Now we got our effect back. And we got an extra option that we can choose how much we want a certain sound to have effect on. So next thing we're gonna do, now we have this mixer, of course, we're gonna add another effect, just because it is fun to play with. This is a delay, so it repeats, it makes the sound repeat a few times. So let me show you. We're gonna first connect it to our effect module. So the inputs of our synth go to the inputs of our effect, and the outputs go to our return, and we can sync it with whatever we want, but we're gonna sync it with our normal clock. Let's give it a bit and let's see how it sounds like. Let's make a little change on the left and the right, and let's see what it sounds like. Now, of course, if you're gonna do it on our beat, we're straight into Technoland, I think. as you can see. But let's take our next. And let's see what this does. Oh, wrong knob. Happens to everyone. Without. With. Bit more. Let's wait for a moment till it gets back to another wave. Without. And with. And you can choose, of course, how much you want the delay. You can make it a bit subtle, with a little bit less feedback. But it can be a nice effect. Alright, let's go on to our next sound and check what it does. And let's put the previous one a bit back. As you can see, it can be useful. Can be nice, actually. Our next sound. The previous also a bit back. Alright, next sound. We're gonna have to wait a bit because it's not gonna do much otherwise. Without. With. As you can see, this effect can be very useful. Now let's try it on the hi-hats. Probably will be a bit too much, but let's see. If we briefly want extreme hi-hats, for example. And we have also different options for our effect, where we can choose the different modes. As you can hear, you are using headphones. But let's just take the first one out. It's just for an example. Alright. So for now we don't need this mixer anymore. And we don't need this mixer anymore. And we have a nice patch going on with most of the common, or let's say a lot of common bass techniques you can use in a modular synth, starting from our clock. One of those clocks we multiply by 4 to make our sequencers into 4-step per beat sequencers. Because we used this kind of sequencer, we always gonna use a sample and hold in every case. Our pitch information we send through quantizers to keep everything sound musical. Here we have the connection of our most important patch. That's the oscillator connected to a voltage controlled amplifier and an envelope generator. We have 2 of those, separated by 1 octave. This one is 1 octave lower than this one. We modulate the attack with our third row, sometimes negative voltage, sometimes positive voltage, and we modulate the shape of our oscillator with a low frequency oscillator. From our low frequency oscillator, we use the sine wave form to slowly modulate certain things. We have seen now that we can trigger our percussion instruments with a trigger sequencer. We saw another way to create different sounds by mixing different waveforms into a mixer and let the volume modulate by a low frequency oscillator. We send those ones to a bass filter. We have our scope where we can see what our mixer is creating, which kind of wave our mixer is creating. We have here our fourth oscillator, which is called the palette, and which we also modulate certain parameters with the same low frequency oscillators we already have. And as we saw before, if we modulate certain things with what we already have going, it makes that everything sounds more glued together. So it makes the whole patch more one. Next thing we saw is our mixer in combination with our send and return effect panel. We got our reverb and delay effect and our output. So that's our complete patch. So the only thing we now need is some kind of a voice, actually, to sing along with it. But in case we don't have that here, I have the next best thing. Let's say it's another voice or last voice. Let's quit it for a moment. I just recently discovered this module, but it's really great. And what it does, it repeats what is written here in a crazy computer voice. So let's listen how it sounds. Alright, and we have some different options. We can choose the speed of the voice, the pitch, the mouth and the throat effect, let's say. Here we have a button random. If we press this, it gives us every time a new sentence. And every sentence that's written here is always something motivating in life. Your daily haiku, let's say. And here we have the option one shot or not. So if we put it on one shot, it will just say this sentence in a strange computer voice once and it will stop. Maybe a little bit less pitch. Let's see if we can eventually understand what it says. Oops. Your ability to juggle many tasks will take you far. All right. And here we have the option sing mode. Then it's, let's listen. As you can hear, it sings that sentence, more or less. But I found a way to make this in some kind of a strange instrument. Let's try it. All right. Now let's try it. So Now it's more like a strange synthesizer instrument. Of course you can search different timings. We can also choose to start and stop this with one of our 3 rows we still have on our sequencer. So we can also start and stop this, so it doesn't keep going like now. But for the demonstration, let's keep it going for a moment. And now let's set some from our these 2 effects. Let's apply them on this sound. We put them in the 7. This first. Probably be a bit too loud. This beat's getting a little bit boring. Few notes. It for a moment and listen to it without effect. And now some effect on it. Well, let's take another sentence. It's a world of difference. It's really crazy module. You can have a lot of fun with it. Of course, not much to learn here, but it's just very fun. Alright. Oops. If you want to avoid to accidentally move the modules like I just did, you have the option to lock positions, so you can't move your modules accidentally. Alright. But I think I'm gonna leave it with this. The patch is free to download, so you can play with it, have fun with it, analyze it if you want. And the best thing you can do to learn this is not good, of course, we can never be in the red. The best thing you can do to learn this is disconnect the cables and try to connect them back again. And for the rest, I would say much luck with it, have much fun, and see you next time. Bye.